Hello, everybody. It's Jason from Ronin Bodyboards here for another Boog Chat. So, looks like we got a couple of people already here. Feel free to say hi down in the chat thing. So, um, yeah, I got a couple things I want to talk about this week and taking questions. So, hello to the two people that are here already. Thanks for being here early. Appreciate it. You got any questions? Hit them up in the chat window. Nick, good evening, buddy. Yeah, I'm gonna actually pull out one of the old ones. I didn't make it, but it was my very first custom. We're gonna show that one off tonight. So, yeah, just gonna keep on. Maybe I'll do something. I was thinking maybe I'll do like a board of the week segment, and I'll pull out one of my personal boards or one of the boards in my collection. Maybe we'll talk about that. Oh, just one board like that every week. Kind of tossing that idea around in my head, just so we got a different kind of board to look at. Maybe something cool and old, or even pull out some of the old tubes custom boards that I have too. So we kind of take a look at maybe how things have evolved over the years and stuff. You look back at boards 20 years ago or 20 plus years ago and how they've evolved to where we're at today. So yeah, I think I'm going to probably start doing that, incorporating that into the chats. So yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool too, Nick. I'm definitely going to do that. Thanks for showing up. I looked like you might have been going out of town or something. So heading up north, I saw something on the Instagram. You were bailing out and chatted with Sterling earlier today, and he said you might be gone for a few days. Yeah. So yeah. It looked like you're going somewhere up north, so that'd be cool. Maybe find some waves. I'm sure you're probably taking some pictures. It looked like you have all your camera gear you're taking with you, so that'd be fun. Yeah, you got that should be good, Nick. Can't wait to see the pictures you take, man. It's pretty cool content you do, and you've got an eye for the camera, that's for sure. Let's see. So I think maybe we'll start with I get hit up all the time going, hey, I went to the website and I was looking around in the website store, but you don't have any boards on there for sale. What's going on with that? That's a lot of brands out there. They have inventory and they build up inventory of specific models, and then that stuff's sitting around waiting for people to buy it. And that's not really how my business is structured. I like to build one board for one customer, and occasionally I get a wild hair, or maybe I'll put a wrong detail into one of the boards I'm making. I'll have to kind of redo it. So that sometimes I'll just kind of finish it off, tweak it out a little bit, so it's not the original board that I got on order, and I'll put that on the website. So, and sometimes I'll just, if I have a small batch of boards, maybe I'll do one extra for the website. But most of the time these days that I'm so busy just with custom orders, I don't have time to sit around and just make boards for the website. I'm always building boards for somebody at this point. I'm not really building them for the website just because I don't have time. Just in this batch, you can kind of see behind me, there's I think there's eight boards in this batch. So yeah, I mean, that's enough. I don't really need one more for the website. And anytime I usually build something for the website and I do get it on there, it's usually gone within 48 hours. Anything I post on the website, just in the website store, just does not stick around for good reason. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't do too many for the website store, and sometimes people just kind of want to impulse buy something, and it usually doesn't last long when I build a board for the website store. So. The best way to find out when I'm going to do one is, watch the Instagram feed or the. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this is Riot Bodyboards over on Oahu. Yep, I met Blake when one of my Oahu trips. Blake and I got together and kind of had some lunch one day and did the old shirt swap thing. And I'm really a fan of what he does, and I'm pretty sure he's kind of a fan of what I do. We have some mutual respect for what's going on with each other, and we've helped each other out with materials a little bit here and there in the past too. So yeah, I have a really good relationship with Blake. I think he's a super cool guy. Anyway, so yeah, the website thing, it's just I build them when I can, and they don't last long. So follow on the Instagram, and when I post something, usually sometimes I'll have it in the website store by the time I put it up on the Instagram feed, or sometimes it takes me like the next morning or something. It'll take me a day to get all the pictures processed and get into the website. So it's best just to watch the Instagram feed for when I'll have boards for the website. So I don't know. Anybody got any questions? Hit me up. Like I said, I'm just kind of going to ramble on about the few topics I have today, and take questions. Um, I got a couple other things I still want to kind of talk about. Like uh, once people find out that geez, I went to the website and I couldn't find anything to buy. Well, how do I order a custom board? And there's not really anything on my website that really tells you how. So basically, it's just a contact thing. So you can send me emails. You can really direct messaging me on Instagram or Facebook. It's kind of the best way to chat. I mean, I don't mind shooting emails back and forth. It's kind of not as smooth of a process doing emails versus direct messaging. Excuse me. Direct messaging on Instagram or Facebook is really the best way to kind of figure out board details. And then, so basically what I'm looking for you right from the get-go is, there's a base price for board these days. It's about $300 is kind of the cheapest I can really build a board these days. And that includes, like just about any kind of tail, as long as it's not too crazy. A single stringer, I'll do mesh bottom and bulbs and standard channels. If you get into any kind of more complicated stuff beyond that, then I got to start adding a little bit more onto the cost, just because it takes me more time to do a more complicated channels, or if there's a second stringer, a third stringer, or any kind of extra little add-ons that add prices. It's just things have to go up a little bit because it just costs more to build the board. Basically what I'm looking for right from the get-go is dimensions. Dimensions are right where I want to start. So how long of a board, how wide, what's the nose, what's the tail, those type of numbers I kind of want to know right off the bat. How many stringers, what kind of channels, if you want any deck contours, those are all things I need to know to give you a price. So those are some of the first questions I'm going to be asking you. So if you can have some of that information ready to go, kind of cuts the back and forth down a little bit on the messaging to try to figure out the details. And then after that, it's just about colors and stamps and it's really a ton of options. So especially with all the new colors, I posted up some of the new colors on Instagram and Facebook over the last week. So there's the full color ranges on there. So I might do a more permanent post, so it's not just a story feed, so that way people can go and reference all the new colors or what the current available colors are. So so then then what I'll start doing is anybody that's ordered a custom from me before has probably seen one of these custom order form sheets. It's kind of whitened out in the picture there, but basically what I do is I'll just start filling out all the stuff on this sheet, and then I'll take pictures of these forms, and then I'll send it to you, and then just start shooting messages back and forth to figure out the details of your board. So, and then once all this is figured out, then I usually send PayPal invoices to your email for a payment. So that's and then after the payment's received, I give it a number, and it goes into the board queue, and I build all the boards in the order of the number they're received. And as soon as I get the payment, your board gets a number, and I build them in the order that the numbers are. I don't really like to jump around. I've had people come to me before and say, hey, you got, it won't be 2 weeks before I need because is there any way I can pay you extra to get it done now? I'm like, well, I don't really like doing that, because all these other people have been waiting for their boards. I'm not really wanting to take extra money just to bump you up in my production queue. It's not something I'm really interested in doing. Just pay your money and wait your turn. That's kind of where I'm at, and that's kind of how it's always been. So I don't really want to take extra money to kind of bump you up in the queue. But I'll do my best to get it done as fast as possible. And I'm usually building boards within 2 to 3 weeks now. So it's going to start getting busier. Things are starting to get busy for the fall months. Always get nutty busy. And every year I've been doing this, it's just been busier and busier in the fall months. So if you really want to get something in, a board like by Christmas, it's, don't wait till, December 1st. There was a chance you probably won't get your board in time. You need to work out your details in November or something if you want it by Christmas. So that way we get you in the queue and get it all built in time. JK, I got a question there. Let's see. I've seen shippers use heat guns when doing the finishing rails. Does this help with the rails stick together? There's a couple way to if you're talking about once the rails are on the board, and then like how you heal up all the cuts, because once you put skins on, you cut them off the razor knife, and then those cells are exposed, and anywhere where you cut the foam, it's kind of open celled still. And what you have to do is you got to go back there and heat that edge up. And there's two different ways that I've seen it. The old school way is kind of use a wet glove, and I know Jimmy and some of the CX guys kind of use a wet glove technique still too. But so you'll go with the heat gun. You'll just blast it with the where those open cells are with the heat gun, and then the wet glove. You just have a wet glove, and you just kind of follow behind the heat gun, and then kind of smoosh all of that open cells because they're all heated up, and then it kind of smooths it out and seals all that cut edge along the rails, and the tail, the nose and tail also have sections that need to be healed off as well. So top and the bottom of the rails, and then all the tail pieces. They all, and some people like, the way I learned how to do it though is I use special rollers. So they're like a lamination roller. I mean, I know there are some on Amazon, some places maybe you can find lamination rollers, but I just made my own because you can get these little conveyor rollers. And so the more kind of the more modern way to heal up those edges instead of the wet glove thing is to use these rollers. So instead of having a wet glove, you still use the heat gun, but you're just doing a roller behind it. And this is the way I was taught to do it in the Tubes Factory by Buzz. Buzz had like just a collection of these things because there were so many shapers back in the day. So there was probably 10 or 20 of these things around the shop that all handmade by Buzz. So when I went to start doing my stuff, I just built my own little rollers. I used to buy these rollers and some steel, and I'm a pretty handy dude when it comes to wood. So I just made, this one's got a cherry handle on it. It's just all epoxy on, I think, or Gorilla Glue. I can't remember how I used to seal all this one up. This one's kind of screwed together. This one's aluminum. This one's all steel. I really kind of prefer the steel ones. The aluminum one seems like it gets hotter faster or something. I don't know. It's a smaller diameter on the roller too. I don't know. I just like the steel one a little better. It's a little heavier. So yeah, you just go behind and you seal up all the edges with these rollers or the wet glove. That's how you kind of seal those edges off. There's a video on here on the YouTube with time lapse of me kind of doing the process too with the rollers. So I know some guys won't even bother sanding. They'll just if you're really good with the razor knife, you can just cut stuff. It's so good that you don't even have to sand anything. But I still have to sand stuff. Maybe I'm not that as good as some of the other shapers out there with the knife, and sometimes my cuts aren't exactly perfect. So I got to go back and sand a little bit on some of those rail spots. And I think it's better to do that in some spots where your hands touch anyway. I've talked about that a little bit with the rounded to sharp rails and some of the other things. I don't think anywhere where you touch with your hands up by the nose, there shouldn't be any kind of sharp edges up there where your hands are touching foam. So I'll go back and even sand more in those spots just up and around the nose, just to kind of give you more rounded, softer edges. So for your hands when they touch. Plus, like I said, when you're leaning forward on a wave, you don't want any edges in the front part of your board to be catching water. It's a little bit more forgiving if in the nose areas if it's a little more rounded off. But then towards the tail of the board, you maybe want to sharpen things up. That's where all the hydrodynamics start kicking in, and how it cuts into the wave and tracks a little bit better. I just think sharper edges in the back, rounder stuff in the front. And you usually do all that sanding, and then you go back and hit it with all the rollers. So that's kind of the finishing process. Like I said, there's a time-lapse video here on the YouTube channel of me doing all that stuff. So you can go back and kind of watch that and get an idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, JK, you can use. It depends on how the rail looks. He's asking if you can use those rollers to like repair damage and stuff. Yeah, you can definitely. Depends on the damage, but yeah, you can definitely go back and if you're good enough with the heat gun, you can kind of hit the heat gun and then roll out spots. I know I do that a lot sometimes because I showed maybe one or two chats ago. I showed like my right rail on most of my boards gets kind of damaged from my leash, my bicep leash, because I arm paddle a lot. And then every arm paddle, when it comes across my right rail, it just over time, it kind of damages up my right rail a little bit. And I've gone back on a few of my boards with those rollers and just kind of hit that edge again after it gets kind of roughed up from the leash. So you can use a heat gun and a roller to kind of clean up some of those rail spots that get kind of damaged from the leash. And like I said, it's usable for a few different things, but it just kind of depends on what the damage is. So we've got 5 people here. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. If anybody's got any questions, hit them up in the chat window, whether it's down there or over there. I don't know where it's at on your device, but fire away some questions. I'm all about trying to answer whatever people want to ask me. So fire away. Nick's asking about like how a marbled type of multicolored bottom slicks, and how they're made. Let's see. He's asking what are those slicks made of, and how are they made? So I think most of them are HDPE. I don't think I've seen too many Surlyn slicks. Most of them are HDPE that are multicolored kind of ones. I don't know exactly why they don't make Surlyn that have multicolored. They might, but I haven't seen it. It's not available for me to buy from my spot where I get all my Surlyn from. My Surlyns are all just one color, but I get a color range of stuff, and I try to get some cool colors that maybe some other people in the world don't, or other manufacturers don't kind of have. So that kind of separates my colors apart from the other people. But how are they made? I don't know. I've seen some Surlyn extruders is what I think is what it's called. So what it is kind of like there's like these little pellets that you buy that are small pieces of Surlyn plastic, and somehow you dump those pellets in some kind of feeder, and then that feeds that into a machine, and it heats all those pellets up and almost liquefies them, and it goes down on a flat surface, and then it's all squished out flat with a roller, and then that's what makes it a nice flat skinny piece of Surlyn. And then it's just squeezed and pushed out of the machine that layers it all flat. I've just seen like a couple little videos in the past. And so when you're marbling it, what I guess you'd have to do is you'd have to have a few different types of pellets that you're feeding into the thing. So that way, when it's getting squished and extruded out, it's obviously going to be multicolored or something like that. So I guess that'd be the way to do it, even though it might be a little bit beyond my machinery knowledge and experience, because I've only maybe seen a video or two of how it's done. I know Buzz back in the day said that sometimes you get like multicolored ones by skins and Surlyn pieces when they were changing colors as well. So sometimes when they're like going from one color to another color, you can get some weird half and half kind of things that are going on with some slicks. I know he's talked about that back in the day, being that was another way to go. But I think if you're purposefully trying to do it, you're probably feeding multiple pellets in, and it's marbling out and doing some crazy stuff. That's my understanding of how it's done. Yeah, no worries, Nick. Hey, like I said, I've said this in the past that if I'm wrong, if somebody's watching this down the line, whether you're watching it now or you're watching it in the replay, if I'm saying something that's wrong, or you've seen it or heard things done a different way, like with how this stuff's made, then correct me in the comments. I'd love to learn more and be corrected on stuff. I don't know everything. I just kind of know what's been told to me and the things that I've seen along the way on this journey. So I love to be corrected and learn stuff. So if I'm not right on something, I want to know. Slicks are pretty cool, but the HDPE for me is just not it's kind of a lower level as far as quality over Surlyn. I really do prefer Surlyn as a bottom slick versus HDPE. I really don't even stock HDPE. I have a couple pieces of it here, and it's only back. We've talked a little bit with the foam backings that come on the back side of the slick pieces. I get my HDPE when I get it back with just PE. So if I ever wanted to build a PE core board, I have a couple bottom slicks that I can do it with. I know these materials that I just got, I got a big old box of it's the only orange bottom slick that was even available this last time for me. They didn't have any Surlyn in orange, which I was pretty bummed about, but they did have HDPE, and I got one box of that, but I sent it off to Andrew over on the East Coast. I just kept a few pieces, and then he got the rest of it. So he's going to be making a few more PE boards than I will. So I just sent it all off to him, and I kept I think I kept like 5 pieces. I have like 5 pieces of orange bottom slick here. It's PE, but like I said, I'm not really too interested in building PE boards. But I might get a core piece or 2 down the line at some point, and then at least I'll have some bottom slick I can put on it. So yeah, I know there's other ways to get HDPE here in the United States too. It comes in a big roll, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really too hip on HDPE to begin with, so I'm going to mostly stick with Surlyn. Yeah, Jerbo, good to see you again. Yeah. Jerbo's asking about my tombstone shape that I've been doing, for a while now. In fact, I just rode my tombstone I went out front right out here in the beach break on my tombstone about an hour before I came on here. So this afternoon I had a little tombstone session. It was 2 to 3 foot. So I only break my tombstone out when it's under 3. If it's over 4 foot, any kind of wave over 4 foot, I'll just ride my regular board. But if it's under 4 foot and smaller, I kind of go towards my tombstone. It's a wave catching machine. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I know there's pictures of them on on the Instagram and stuff. But you know, maybe I'll just go grab it so that way I can have it on the picture real quick. So anyhow, this is my tombstone. Like I said, it's been around for a long time. It's number like 27 or something like that. I want to say it has some of the original black PP core that I got too, which is just magical stuff. I don't have that black. That black PP core that I originally got with some of my very first batches of core was some of the best core I've ever used. I can't even really find it. I've sent it off samples off to the manufacturers and I can't get it. Anyway, I think that this board has that original black PP core in it. So anyway, yeah, it's this tombstone. I kind of based it off of like the pipe, like wooden pipos, like the wooden pipos. It's got a really rounded off nose and V-tail. This one is long, short stringers, single, double to quad channel on the bottom. I love this board in small waves. It's just a wave catching machine. How does this thing ride versus a regular board? It's like I said, it's really straight rail. I don't know if you can see that. The wide point suit, it's like around 12 inches off the nose too, the wide point. So what happens, and it has a really wide tail. So what happens is there's just, since it's so long from the wide point to the nose, instead of having the wide point further back on the rail, what ends up happening now is this just has to be a really straight rail line all the way through here. So you don't really get a lot of curve in this rail. It's very, very straight. And it's really long. So it's once you get it on rail and you're going down line, it's just crazy fast. It just makes sections that a regular board won't make because of the long rail in the wave face. It just tracks and goes. I mean, and also another really good thing about this is because it has the wide point so far forward, it adds a lot of surface area in the front part of the board all up through here. So you can really lean forward on this board without purling. It's just amazing how much further forward you can ride on it without the thing purling on you. So what in the really slow, soft, mushy kind of conditions, and if you need to kind of make a section, you can really scoot forward on this thing and for speed to make it through the section. And it just makes sections that a regular board you'd be purling and falling on and face first into the wave, because you purl and just beat it. This board will make it. It's crazy. It's not the greatest turning board, but this one, like I said, this one's so old. Like it's got a little bit of elbow creases you can kind of see in it. But like I said, it's number 27. It's been around for over 4 years. So it's definitely seen a lot of riding. I've put just a ton. I couldn't even tell you how many sections I've had on this board. It's crazy how long it's held up. I've also, I've also noticed I've never plugged or leashed it. I didn't even leash this board. I just go out with leashless on it, so that way. That's maybe one of the reasons why it's held up so long is because I never put a leash on it, and then I didn't damage up the rail because of my leash. And the core's held up really good too because I never had to put a plug through the skins and sirloin, and that usually ends up letting water into the core and stuff. So I think it's held up a little bit longer just because I never plugged it and leashed it. But man, I just love it. It's fun to drop knee on too because there's so much surface area on the bottom. It paddles really fast. Like when you get a few strokes on that thing and it kind of it gets up and starts planing faster because there's so much surface area on the bottom. It paddles really fast, which also means when you're going to paddle for a wave, you're going to be able to catch a wave easier too because it just paddles faster. So it's easier to catch waves. It's easier to paddle on. Said it's really good to make soft, mushy sections. It spins unbelievable. It's probably the best spinning board that I have just because it has all that area up on the nose. And as soon as you lean forward and whip your head, once the tail releases, it just spins around like nobody's business. It really is a great spinning board. I ride mine with the V-tail, but I've done a bunch of different tails on there. And for DK, it works too. It's the only board that I even DK on. I don't even DK on my regular boards. I just DK on that on smaller days. It's fun to DK on. I know a few different guys. I know my buddy Jim Ledbetter, who does my shirts. He DKs on his all the time. He's DK'd it in the Waco pool and up in the Bay Area in Santa Cruz when he was living up there before he moved to Texas. So I know that it's definitely seen all types of riding. I know Sterling also, his very first board that he got from me was a Tombstone that he bought off the website. So some of his early pictures, he was just riding a Tombstone before we even got him on some other regular DK board, and then one of the short boards that were just like a standard prone board. Yeah, Nick, I know that board. I'm telling you, it's a super fun shape, man. Like, I mean, obviously you want to have a standard board in your quiver, but once you have like maybe a true DK, if you into DKing, or once you have a prone board or two, maybe a couple different shapes of a prone board. But then after that, like, what else is out there to ride? I want to get a different feel, or like I said, just maybe even for different conditions. Like I said, I only ride mine on smaller days, but I know people that'll take these things out on really big days too. And I've taken it out on overhead days, and still it goes fine, just fine on bigger waves. It's just fast. That's plain and simple. It's a fast board. It's a really, really fun shape too. So, I mean, it's not going to perform and turn like maybe a normal board would, but man, like once you get the thing on rail and you're going down line, it's so fast and fun. Yep. So if you're looking for something a little bit outside the box, but for a different field, maybe go with the Tombstone on maybe your next board order. That's what custom's all about. We can do whatever you want to do. So like I said, looks like we got 7 people here. Hey, if anybody's got any questions, fire them away. Yeah, fire away in the chat window if anybody's got any questions for me. Don't feel like you can't interrupt me when I'm talking or anything too. Just I just kind of keep talking until somebody gives me a new question or a new direction to go on something here. I still got over about a half hour ago, so we've got plenty of time here to answer any questions for anybody. I still have one more thing I wanted to kind of go over. Like I said, I covered a couple of topics already in my thing. JK's asking how I got into shaping boards. Well, I can kind of start with that story a little bit. Maybe I'll start with the board, my very first custom board. So I moved. I'll kind of go into that a little bit, and I'll kind of go into the other thing that I wanted to talk to. Kind of mash it all into one story here. So when I moved I grew up in Fresno, which is a little bit inland of Morro Bay, and I had vacationed over here in Morro Bay, but I ended up went to Oahu for my first trip when I was still living in Fresno, and came back. And then within 6 months, I'd moved to the beach after going to my very first Hawaii trip. I was just sold on the ocean. I wanted to be closer after that trip. Growing up in the Central Valley in the concrete jungle, just skateboarding and snowboarding, that's all I kind of ever really did as a kid. So as soon as I got to the ocean and experienced what waves were like and what snorkeling and scuba was all about, it wasn't too long before I decided just to move over the beach. So once I got over here, I definitely knew I wanted to get into riding waves. Like I said, I skateboarding, snowboarding my whole life, so I wanted to get into riding waves. But and I was also a certified scuba diver at that point, and spent a lot of time in the ocean with fins on my feet. So maybe that was the initial allure to the bodyboard, was because I was used to having fins on my feet and swimming around in the ocean with that. So I was like, oh, I'm really comfortable with fins on my feet. I can feel I can swim any kind of thing if I have flippers on my feet, So yeah, and then it was like, okay, well, I could just get on a bodyboard and learn about positioning and duck diving and learn about timing and how sets work with waves and things like that. But then, so I got over to Morro Bay within the first few months. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to get into go down to the surf shop and get a wetsuit and a boogie board and some flippers and get into the surf and bodyboard thing. And so I went down and bought just a cheap Wave Rebel surfboard or a bodyboard at the surf shop and a 3-2 wetsuit, which in hindsight, I live in Morro Bay. You can't get away with a 3-2. It's just not enough suit. So it wasn't, my first few sessions weren't the greatest experiences. My fins were too small. They just hurt my feet like hell. My wetsuit was too thin, so I was freezing my ass off. And then, I had a cheap board too. But so it wasn't too long before I was like, okay, I definitely need to up my gear a little bit. So I went back to the surf shop. I was like, hey, you guys, I want to get, a better wetsuit and maybe a different pair of fins because these fins are hurting my feet. And maybe get a little bit better of a board or something. And then that's when they told me, the Wavelength surf shop, the one here in Morro Bay, it's the big surf shop here. And they're like, hey, there's the Tubes bodyboard here in Morro Bay, and they have all this stuff. We can sell you a wetsuit, but they have flippers and way better boards up at the Tube shop. So So, I was like, well, shoot, I want to go up there and see what that's all about. I'd been around a few different kind of manufacturing situations prior to moving over to the coast, some of my previous careers and stuff before I moved over here. So I'd been around like big production plants and things like that. So walked into tubes, I was just like, oh my gosh, this place is amazing. So, it wasn't too long before, I right off the bat, I was like, well, shoot, I want to get a custom board, like they had some, they were making models and stuff. And that was when tubes had they were taking where the tubes factories at now. They used to have the whole complex there back in the day. And when I first went in there, they had the whole thing. And it was really cool experience. They were still pumping out a lot of boards, and they had a bunch of guys working there. And so, right off the bat, I was like, okay, well, I was completely green. I didn't know what the hell I wanted or what but I knew I had the option to order a custom board. I was like, well, shoot, I might as well get a custom board here. So, so I went in, started working with I think it was Pat or Marcos and Mike were all kind of there at that time. So I got to talk with all those guys and try to figure out what, and, they just start me off with something basically, run of them, just standard cone shape. And so they suggested me getting a hex model, which is one of the tubes models. And it all started that with me. And this is the very first one that I ever got. So this is a, 42 and a half hex. It's got the old skull hex stamp on it. One of the old school tubes ones, and black deck, blue pinstripe, white rail, standard channels, clip crescent tail. It's got the little Dancy skeleton on the bottom. This stamp's not even around anymore. I think Buzz just melted it down or something. He told me. It's kind of broke my heart because this is a really cool little Dancy skeleton stamp that they had. It's kind of like Grateful Dead skeleton or something. I always kind of liked it. Anyway, so yeah, this is my very first board. You can see it definitely got the old deck cancer going on here a little bit too. That's just kind of the nature of the old school film decks, because this is a Polypro. It's got that's what the PS stamp here is, Polypro stringers. That's what this is. So it's a Polypro core with a single stringer. No nose bulbs, nothing, man. It's just standard channel clip crescent. But gosh, my first real custom board. It definitely, I put some hours on this thing, and it wasn't too long before I went back and I was okay. This is a really good board. I had a lot of good times on it. Had a little bit of bubbles in it. It was starting to bubble, and this is partly maybe my problem. The black decks. You got to be really careful, especially the old ones that have the film decks versus all the substrate stuff we're doing these days. I've never had one of my running boards bubble like this on the deck, just because it's a different type of construction these days versus this is the old school one. It's just a film deck. It doesn't have the substrate on the underneath side. Anyhow, so it wasn't too long before this happened. I went back. I'm like, hey, I want to get another board. I love it. And then I was, wasn't too long. I think it was even the next board I started going to a V-tail. So I think this is the only tubes crescent tail, like a clip crescent tail ever in like tubes custom boards that I ever got. So like I said, I never really rode stock boards. Even after this is my very first custom. I only had that really cheap Wave Rebel board that I bought, and then I went right to tubes and I only rode custom boards forever from them. So, I never really rode stock boards. I was very lucky to always be able to kind of tweak design from board to board, and that's how all my board shapes have evolved. My personal board shape has evolved through the years. So maybe over the next few chats, I'll break out some of the other boards, and you can kind of see the evolution of how my personal boards evolved from this original, just basically just a real basic shaped board to the things I'm doing on my boards now. So how did I get into shaping boards? So I was at the tubes factory for getting custom boards for over 10 years. Probably more like 12 or 13 years I was getting custom boards. And then, towards the end, I was, like I said, my designs were evolving throughout all that. And the things I wanted, I was asking them to put into the boards. And they were like, well, after a while, they knew that I had all this construction and shop experience, because I had my own wood shop and architecture business for years here in town as well. So they knew I was competent with tools and stuff, and they were super busy with production boards. So they were like, I wanted some kind of crazy. It was my first set of deck contours really. So I built my own deck contour template and took it into the shop. I'm like, hey, can you guys put these contours on my board? And they were like, no, well, we can, but we're really busy. Maybe they were like, well, maybe you can come in and cut the contours and do all the sanding on the deck. And then then that's how it basically all started, is that I just, hey, Bill, right on, Bill. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into shaping. Was my boards became the details became so complex is that they just started letting me in the shop to start working on some of my own personal boards. Even though they would do most all the laminating and the finishing and stuff, they would just let me do some of the steps on the core work. And so I kind of got my foot in the door, to work on my own boards there. And then over time, they offered me a part-time job, doing all that rolling we talked about before, the sanding and finish rolling. That's all I did for my first few years working at Tube. So I must have rolled about a couple thousand boards and sanded quite a few thousand boards over those couple years before I worked my way up. And then over time, I was the only shaper there towards the end on bodyboard. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into the shaping thing. And so I was the shaper at Tubes for I just did the custom orders, and then they were getting all the surf shop orders from Mez overseas. So yeah, that's how the business was kind of structured towards the tail end when I was working there. I was just coming in the afternoons building the custom order board Tubes boards, and then I just broke off and started my own running after that. So I was there maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe as the main shaper. So that kind of is the history of how I got into it. And like I said, it just from me ordering custom, somehow my designs got so complicated that they just started letting me in the shop to do all my own stuff. So it just evolved into all that. And now here I am doing my own thing, making boards for a bunch of other people, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of the history of how I got into it. And maybe, yeah, my first custom board, pretty fun. Pretty fun to kind of break out. And I have a stack of stuff upstairs, and I can't wait to share some of the other boards and the evolution from this board. Maybe I'll break them out like in chronological order over the chat, so you can kind of see the history of the evolution of it all. If anybody else got any questions, hit me up in the chat. Happy to answer whatever. Yeah, I pretty much covered the 3 things I wanted to talk about. So, like I said, if anybody's got anything they want me to chat about, I'm definitely an open book about the whole game of making these boards, or, my experience of traveling, or some tips, whatever. I went into some paddling tips a while back, and somebody else was asking me about kind of maybe sharing more things about that stuff, and I might get into that too. So, but there's some things about paddling where a lot of people don't understand. There's more efficient ways to paddle. So maybe people can go back and watch some of that stuff. And breathing is another a really important thing when you're in the water out there, is about being able to control your heart rate and how heavy you're breathing. It's super critical to not gas out. You don't want to be a couple hundred yards out to sea when the waves are pumping and just be gasping for air. You got to keep some stuff in reserve. I obviously when it's really pumping, there's only so much you can do to control your heart rate and your breathing, but trying to stay calm is super important, and the heavier it gets. And breathing is even if you're not swimming, I think breathing, you got to really focus on your breathing in between. Like if you make it out once you make it out into the lineup past where all the waves are breaking, you're waiting for sets to come. There's almost like a time where you can kind of recover. That's a huge time for me, is that I really like to oxygenate myself through that. I almost breathe heavier when I'm just sitting there, to make sure all my blood is over oxygenated, so that way when the sets do come, then I'm like, it's almost like when you see like the free divers, and they're sitting there almost hyperventilating before they go and dive down. What they're doing is they're oxygenating their blood so they can stay under the water and hold their breath longer. There's some things about that where I think where when you're sitting in the lineup and you're waiting for sets to come, if you can over oxygenate your blood, that way when the sets do come and you have to sprint like hell to catch the wave and take off. And then once you're on riding, you're almost over oxygenated. I don't think you have to breathe as much while you're riding the wave. Or then if you get wiped out and held down, you can definitely take the wipe out a little bit better and not be like panicking for the surface as fast as if you've already oxygenated your blood before you even took off on the wave. So there's some things about these are kind of like more advanced things once the waves get kind of heavy. And you really, really, really need to be able to control your heart rate and your breath and not gas out. There's definitely some things about breathing that are super important that some people should maybe think about a little more. Alligator skin, yes or no? Alligator skin on a bodyboard, Bill? You don't want to. Going to put alligator skin on a bodyboard, maybe it'll make it go faster because alligators swim pretty fast, like a fish scale kind of thing. Oh, Bill's asking if I remember when they made a knee board out of foam. No, no, I don't think I remember that. Nope, not ringing a bell. I know there's been some like all kinds of printed patterns and things on skins and stuff like that over the past. You know, there's a few brands out there that still do some pretty complicated. Oh, Keith Meek, yeah. Yeah, there's but when you're talking about a graphic or something that's actually has texture, there's a few different things. The people have been doing graphics on bottom slicks and stuff for a while. I don't know. It's not something. I mean, I do like just heat transfer stamps on my boards. That's kind of the stamps you kind of see up here behind me. Those are all like kind of the logo stamps that I can put on my boards. And I have like aluminum stamps and stuff I break out and you heat them up and you do have different colored foils and you can do all kinds of crazy patterns just with those stamps and stuff. So that's kind of the traditional way to like pattern out a board is just to do heat transfer stamps. So yeah, that's yeah, but I know there's other guys out there that can do like full graphics, and I don't know, maybe it's like big printed stickers or something that they put across the bottom of like HDPE bottom slick and stuff. I've seen like full on like the hub boards do have some pretty cool graphics and things on some of those, the tiger stripes and stuff like that look kind of cool. And then I know maybe there's like some of the ballistic boards out there, I think, have some pretty interesting like graphics and stuff on those too. So there's a few brands out there that get a little bit crazy. I mean, even more so than even what I do with graphics and some kind of printed graphic. But I keep my stuff traditional, and I've done a few full mosaic bottoms with like just a collage of all my stamps and stuff. I've done that on deck sides and bottoms for guys. It takes me a heck of a lot of time to do that, but it looks really cool. Anybody's got any questions? Fire away. We got 20 minutes or so to go. So anybody's got anything they want to talk about or any questions, hit fire away. Oh yeah, and maybe something else. This past week, I kind of got restocked on my, just my standard black tees too. They're soft, lightweight cotton. They're black on the front, and then they got just the standard triangle logo on the back. So these are all up on the website now. Anxious Energy, my buddy Jim does all my screen printing. So yeah, I got small through double XL on these things right now. So they're all on the website. I think it's even free shipping too. It's $15 or something. And I have two pink and black ones. There's a large and an extra large only. So I probably won't even put these on the website. Maybe be kind of just a chat only thing. If anybody sees this and wants it, you can message me. And I got two pink and black ones, one large, one XL. So if anybody wants it, hit me up. Just message me or email me or something. Work it out. Yeah. So 6 people. So yeah, anybody else got any questions? Fire away. I know it's kind of fun sometimes. I did this on my first one since we got 6 people here. Like, why don't everybody just type in where they're from? I mean, that's kind of a fun thing to do in the chat window. It's just type the city that you're wherever everybody's at right now. It's kind of feeds through the window, and we kind of see where everybody's at. It's kind of sometimes you might have somebody from your area that you're like, oh geez, no way, you're like my neighbor. I didn't even know. So I've been in a few other kind of live chat things on YouTube where that's been kind of fun. Florida. Oahu, Carlsbad. Hey, Phil, good to see you. Phil's over in Hawaii. Yep. Bill's asking, do I have stuff for the top of the bore, like a rip grip, or there was some stuff that guys were putting maybe on the bottom side of they're almost like remember that old it was like that old sticky foam pieces that they used to sell for like gripping and stuff. They have like little grips sometimes on the side of the nose that some guys will put on their boards, but for the top side, I do these little things called traction bumps on most of my boards, Bill, that are they're just like little bumps of foam that add a little bit of texture to the top. That it's almost, I wouldn't say like grip tape, but it kind of gives you a little bit of bump, and that adds frictions. Especially if you wax your board, it even almost builds up little wax balls on those traction bumps and really helps you not sliding around the deck of your board, which when you're on your body. So there's some things you can do on the deck side to kind of help with not sliding around so much. And then they, like I said, they have some little foam pieces. I don't say it's kind of kooky thing to do, because most guys that know what they're doing, they'll just maybe put a little bit of wax up on the underneath side of their boards where their hands are just to kind of add a little bit of extra grip. I think most guys just wax, if you want a little bit of extra stick to the top of your board, that's usually what they do. There's all kinds of different waxes out there, like surf waxes you can put on the deck of a board so you don't slip and slide around. Well, yeah, Bill, I mean, it's just a different thing, I mean, we obviously grew up. Bill Branscombe, he and I grew up skateboarding in Fresno when we were just little groms. It's pretty cool that we kind of reconnected just over the last couple of weeks. It's pretty cool. Now he's made it in, but he hasn't seen or talked to me in years, so it's kind of cool that he just showed up tonight to kind of get it. Yeah, it's good to see you here, Bill. Maybe if you ever make it over these parts, it'd be nice to maybe take you to the beach and show you what I do around these parts. So yeah, if you're around the area, hit me up. Yeah, but the water is cold here, man. It's not Hawaii. It's that's the thing about here. You can't just go out there in your trunks. You're gonna be freezing your ass off. It's so cold. Yeah, boy, we got a nice little group of people here from. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of people from Hawaii. It seems like I have a lot of customers in Hawaii. It's crazy. I really send a lot of boards there. I'm really, really grateful for all the support from Hawaii and all the guys in Hawaii. Oahu's been extremely well to me, and Maui and Oahu are just half my business probably is Maui and Oahu. So I'm super, super grateful for all the guys in Hawaii that support me. It means a lot too, because they know boards, and they put them to the test there because their waves are so heavy, and it's also a different environment than what I typically ride around here. It's a lot warmer, and then the water's warmer, the air's warmer, so it's nice to get my board. I know how my boards hold up in the cold environments that I ride in and all this stuff. And it's nice to be able to know that they can go to a warm environment, still hold up and still do good in those type of waters. And I personally, I've been to Hawaii quite a few times too. So I've personally got to test some of my boards in Hawaii and know that they at least they work for me. And I know they work for some other guys. And I've seen some amazing pictures of guys riding their boards over there and probably heavier conditions that I didn't want a part in. So, I know that they work there as well as working here. It's just change. You need to change up some stringer configurations and maybe a little more volume or some. There's some things that I've learned that I like in my warm water boards versus my cold water boards. So it's good to have some knowledge about what kind of board works in what type of environment. Yeah, Bill. If you want to learn more, and like I said, there's quite a few. I've done quite a few of these chats at this point, so there's lots of content already, and lots of things you can learn about how the boards kind of go together, and maybe some different features and things that are in there that you can kind of go back and watch whenever you want on these chats. And there's more stuff to learn there, and you never know. Maybe you want to get a boogie board someday. Start trekking over to the ocean. Anybody else got any questions? Fire away. We're got about a little over 10 minutes left to go. So Friday night, hope everybody's having a good one. I think I got only two sessions this week. Like I said, I went out today, and then I didn't go out all week. I was so busy all week, and the waves were pretty small. It was maybe 2 or 3 foot most all week long. But last Sunday, I actually trekked up north almost about an hour north of here, and spot up there. I went with a couple other bodyboard rider guys, local guys here. So yeah, I scored pretty fun beach break up there. It was a little overhead high and a couple barrels, and it's nice to get out of your home zones and kind of explore and ride different waves. It's kind of fun, and it's nice to have some guys that kind of are familiar with other places maybe that I haven't been, and they've exposed me to a couple spots. So I think I made a few trips up north over the last like 2 or 3 weeks with these guys, and they've taken me some spots. I've lived over here for 20 years, and they're still taking me to spots I've never even been. So it's kind of cool to go out there and still find spots that and discover spots that I've never ridden before. JK is asking me what my favorite riders are, OG or current. The thing about my bodyboarding history is when it gets into the OG riders, for me, I didn't really even start getting into the sport until about 2001, 2002 is basically when I started. I'm kind of a late bloomer when it comes to the OG side of things, but I mean, obviously Mike Stewart. Yeah, how can you not have a ton of respect for what that guy's done and his skill level of riding waves? He is still the godfather of riding waves, if you ask me. He, yeah, yeah. I'll never forget. I'm standing there at Pipeline, and Mike Stewart and Mark Cunningham come walking right by me. I go out to body surf, and I'm just like, "Oh my god!" It's like freaking two legends walking right by you. It's just freaking incredible. But then there's another couple guys walking by, but that Mike Stewart for me is obviously, and the things that he's done with the pushing board design as well. It's had some influence on me. The Science brand boards definitely. When it came to deck contours in the early days of my shaping, I definitely they were doing some of the most progressive deck contours that I really had seen on board. So that had a lot of influence on kind of the stuff that I'm doing. Even some of the first traction bumps I ever saw on the deck side were one of the Science boards. It was one of the pockets, I believe, that had like little deck bumps on there. So, and obviously as far as the newer guys go, I mean, like I wouldn't call the Hub brothers very new because they've been around forever too. Those two guys are just absolute legends as well. And I don't really follow maybe even some of the, when you're getting into the newer riders, even beyond the Hubs. There's definitely some guys out there. And girls, there's some girls out there that I really like watching too. Ayaka Suzuki's amazing, and the clam dragger girl, she's really cool. Pipe master. I mean, both those girls are just amazing to watch in the water. There's, so I don't know. I really don't follow the contest scene and know a lot of the really progressive riders these days. So I mean, I do what I do, and I don't really follow all the tours and stuff all that much. I just do my own thing. John, you're asking about what temperature do I set the heat gun to? The heat gun to? You're asking for a friend. Well, depends on what I'm doing to repair, but I think when it comes to heat gun doing repairs, always start with less heat, because you can do way too hot of heat, but you can't do too little of heat. Too little heat, nothing's going to happen. So then you just want to start easing the heat gun up until you find the temperature that works good with whatever you're trying to do. But I'd say start with a very low temperature and then ease it up until it gets to the temperatures, the range that you need to do to do that step. So yeah, I'd say for doing like the healing and stuff like that I do, I'm running real hot when I'm doing the roller setting. I do about around 1100 degrees is what I run my heat gun at when I'm doing the rolling process. But then when I'm doing when I'm putting rails on and doing some of the other work with the gun, I'll be down 700 or 800, somewhere around there. It just kind of depends on the kind of gun you have too, whether some guns only have like a low, medium, or high, and then some of them have like a digital kind of thing where you can really dial it in at 10-degree increments. Bill, suggestions? Hopefully you already watched the one where I talked about asking people asking for suggestions. I'd say if you're 6'1" and 200 pounds, you probably should just ride one of my boards and then figure out if that works for you. I got a ton of boards. You can come over here. We just go rent you a wetsuit and you can ride one of my boards and see how it goes. Yeah. I'd say a 42 clip crescent tail is probably a good place for you to start, Bill. Just like that one I had back here. It's kind of my first bodyboard. You get a clip crescent standard channels and a 42-inch, and then you find out that there's things that are better than that after that. So it's entry level stuff, and then all of a sudden you start feeling, okay, what could be better, or how could this thing perform better? And there's lots of ways to make a board perform better than what this will do. Clip crescent standard channels, it's like I said, it's built for durability, not performance. And then, like I said, this was everybody kind of starts off the clip crescent tail, but like I said, my second board, once I got away from that, I started going into details similar to this on a lot of my boards. And like I said, in the future chats, I'll break some other boards out, and you can kind of see the evolution. But I went to V-tail almost instantly after the clip crescents. I just think it's a way better. V-tails, I'd still be riding V-tails if I wasn't riding my scallop tails these days. I love V-tail. V-tails work really well. I'm a fan. Um, yeah. So anybody else got any questions? Yeah, I think I've kind of covered all the stuff that I think it's in there. Anybody else got any questions? Fire away. Got 6 people here. Somebody's got to have a question. Oh. Yeah, I know there's a. Come on, guys. Let's go. Give me some questions. Anything. I guess we got some swell coming in the next week. So hopefully by midweek this next week, there's going to be like at least a 6-foot swell. I'll probably finally get to ride my 420 board, which still I haven't ridden. Yeah, just been waiting for something in the 6-foot range. And gosh, this October's kind of sucked. Usually October, November around here, the winds start getting better. Offshore winds start kicking in and stuff. And gosh, it's still been foggy and small, and there's no waves, and it's foggy. It's all day long. I hardly even see the sun. So normally by now it's starting to warm up, and the offshore winds are getting in. Just wake up to these cranking offshore winds. So hopefully in the next month or so, then we start getting into that kind of stuff and start getting some of the good swells start showing up. I can actually ride the board that I've had for a month and a half or 2 months that I haven't even been able to ride yet because the waves haven't been good. Really anxious to ride that board. It has a interesting stringer combination, and it has a solid carbon fiber and then a hollow tube and then a solid carbon fiber. So it's a short stringer, but the 2 outside ones are solid carbon fiber rods, and then the long stringer up the middle is just a hollow epoxy fiberglass tube, the standard one. So it's got a different stringer combination. I mean, I've ridden short shorts, but I've never really done the solid rods in those positions. My other warm water board, which is 212, has 3 solid rod stringers just like that all the way through the board for my warm water board. Yeah, new designs. I don't know, JK. I mean, like I said, I did that tapered core board recently. That one for me was that's something I had been wanting to do for a while. I did it for Searle on Oahu. It had a tapered core. It was like instead of it just being a core that sanded parallel and the same thickness all the way through, it actually was small. It was thinner in the nose and thicker in the tail. So the whole board kind of was tapered from thin to thick. So that's the first board I think I've ever really even seen built kind of like that. I mean, I don't think there's ever been really a production board that I've ever seen that kind of has a tapered core and changes thicknesses throughout the whole board, just gradually too. I mean, I've done like step deck boards that are like has more volume in the center part of the board, the contour. In fact, my 212 board, my warm water board has that, and then my 420 board that I just built, it also has the stepped deck. So it's an eighth inch thicker in the center part of the contours than out where it is out on the rails. So that for me, I don't know, just experimenting with some volume like that has been pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm always amazed by the different things that my customers come up with. That's what blows my mind is that, because I build a lot of the boards that are a little bit outside the box than what some other people are going to entertain building. People come to me with some of the craziest ideas sometimes, which is good and bad. There's some times where I go, oh, that's really cool. I want to try to build that. And then there's other times going, oh my God, there's no way I can build that. It's impossible. And then you got to, break somebody's heart, tell them like, I don't think I'll be able to build that. It's just too far outside the box. And I don't even think that maybe those that I can't really get the materials to laminate maybe to the contour, the channel setups that they want or something like that. So it always kind of hurts to tell them somebody no. I can't do it, but I really like being challenged with people's ideas that they come up with. They're like, oh, I really want to smash this idea with that idea and this tail, and then it's something I haven't done before, and I would never thought about it, but they have this idea that that's going to be a good thing, and I'm down with building stuff like that. I like doing things I haven't done and being challenged. Yeah, Bill, I've covered some of the color things. Bill's asking about colors that attract sharks. I don't want to do yellow or red bottoms. Those are 2 colors that I personally stick away from, and I won't really build boards with yellow or red bottoms. talked about that a little bit in the past. So I think those two colors are kind of no colors when it comes to the big angry fish. Yeah, it's good to have a healthy respect for the sharks. You're going out into their territory. It's kind of like walking through the jungle or walking through the desert, and you never know what you're going to come across. There's some wild critters out there, and you're definitely crossing paths. So you got to respect their environment. And I don't know. I also have a guy back in the day who I used to surf with a lot around here. He had this mindset of like, what you got to do is when you paddle out is have an alpha kind of mindset. Is that you got to have it in your mind, and you have to put out the energy that I'm not food. I'm out here. I'm an apex predator, just like you are. Stay away from me. If you have that mindset, sharks are very sensitive, man. You might, if it maybe even helps you 5%, and if nothing else, it's going to help you mentally. It's just putting yourself in that mindset is that I'm an alpha out here, and I'm not food. So if you can just put that in your mind and put that energy out, I think it's a good, healthy thing. Phil's asking, have I ever seen the manta concave slick? So is this like a full concave bottom on the bottom, or what are you talking about there, Phil? Concave slick. I guess you'd be talking about the whole bottom being concaved out. Because I've definitely done quite a few. Like I said, my original tubes boards. Like I said, I ran over that a little bit briefly, but this is my first tubes custom board. Had center channels. Right after this, I went to a V tail, and then I think it had like a wide to narrow channel they called the Easy Flow bottom on that. And then after that, I just got rid of that center bump and just started going to full single concaves on V tails on all my tubes custom boards. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about, Phil, with the concave slick. But I've definitely done quite a few like just full concave bottoms with no. Basically, it's once you have that full concave, the multi-channel systems, all you're doing is adding ribs into that concave. If you think about it, so if it's just a full concave kind of bottom, that's how you get like a quad or a 3 or a 3 to 6. You're just adding ribs into that concave, and that helps with the board. It helps track the board a little bit better. I think this is the full concave. When you get it on rail, it holds and bites pretty good. But I think once you get maybe a little bit more flat and you're leaning forward, it's good to have some of those ribs through the back part of the board because it helps the tracking of the board. And you get a little bit less side slip maybe if you're just having a few ribs in there. But there's nothing wrong with the full concave bottom. It definitely works. Like I said, I had all my old tubes custom boards are that way. Hopefully that's what you're talking about with the concave slick, Phil. It's a center on the bottom of the board. Call it the concave slick. Yeah, there was a Phil. There, I had some pictures of this manta board that kind of had like a V type of single concave through the bottom or something. I did a board for Searle that kind of had that kind of big center V concave kind of. There's one of the bat tail boards I did for Searle that had that maybe it's the channels you're talking about. It had it had little short channels on the outside and then like this big center V kind of channel, but it was almost like a full concave. Yeah, Nick, Sterling's texting me asking to see the progress on his board so he can see after he gets off work. Yeah, okay, yeah, your board and his board are definitely in the stack right back here. So yeah, this is Sterling's right here. So yeah, I got obviously it's all shaped off. I got the holes drilled out for the stringers. You got to core the core out, drill the core out, and then the tube stringers slide up into the board. So nose cut's done. I just laid out all the channels. So the next step is to start getting into all the channel work on the bottom of this. So yeah, this is Sterling's board. And then your board's pretty much looking the same. Let me find it. All these are pretty much in the same status. So, Nick, it's real similar to Sterling's. It's just a little bit bigger. It's same channel setup and same double stringer. Polypropylene cord. So yeah, whole stack of boards I'm working on back here. I got about a freaking 50 channels to do tomorrow. So that's tomorrow's channel day. I'll be carving channels for a couple hours probably on all those 8 boards, but I love it. Just cruise my shop and throw the headphones on and get to let the foam fly, as I say all the time. Just go at it, start grinding away and making dream boards come true. Yeah, pretty excited about this round of boards. There's boards going all over again. I think there's Puerto Rico and Southern California and I think Hawaii. There's some definitely gonna be a fun batch of boards. And there's a DK vector board in there and it's a bunch of 3 to 6s, which I'm really excited to be making more of those because I really believe in that channel system. And I think the more and more I make and the more they get out there and people get to ride them, they're really gonna, it opens their minds about how these boards ride and how well they track and perform. So the more of these things that I can, the fewer standard channel boards I make, the better, and the more multi-channel boards of my designs, I feel better. But that's the thing is about, you order a custom board and, you want clip crescents and the standard channels on it. I mean, that's just a standard board to me you can buy anywhere. Why would you want to pay top dollar for a custom that just has super basic details? That's because you can't find a board in the dimensions you want or the colors. That's usually when people come to a custom shaper versus just buying something off the shelf that's just standard features. You don't, if you don't need all the extra bells and whistles, then that's fine. But, or if you don't need specific colors or you don't want to be picky about those little details, then you can usually find something that work for you. But sometimes people want something they can't find off the shelf and they want to do custom, and that's where I come in. That's the stuff I want to do. So yeah, I mean, stack of boards, all different, every size, shape. It's just crazy. There's kind of a Ben Severson shape board in this one too. I think that's the one that's going to Puerto Rico. It's got a real wide point forward, but still curvy. A little more curvy in the rail than my tombstone shape, just because it has a little bit narrower of a tail, so you get more chance to put more curve in the rail, even though it's got a real wide point forward like the tombstone. I think it's like 14, somewhere on there. It's a 14 and a half, 15-inch nose to wide point number. So where the tombstone's even closer, it's like 12 or something around there. All right, well, it looks like I hit the 7 o'clock hour, so looks like I survived an hour of talking. Anybody's got any last questions, fire away. Otherwise, I think it's about dinner time for me. I do appreciate everybody showing up and the questions and everything. And, said I'm not done doing these things. And now that I got a pretty good list of maybe topics and things that I want to start maybe on the next week. And like I said, I'm going to pull out an old board every single week now out of my quiver of boards. And like I said, I'll probably just do the history of the evolution of the boards to start. Like I said, I just pulled out my original custom board. If you missed it, you can go back and watch, but it's back here. It's a hex. And then I'll pull out my second board with the V-tail and easy flow channels, and we'll maybe take a look at that one next week. Well, thanks, JK. I appreciate you coming out and listening and being a little active in the feed and asking some questions. It really does help things flow when I get questions. So I guess if nobody has any other questions, I guess I'll probably get to signing off. Like I said, I appreciate everybody showing up and hanging out. And if you got any ideas about topics you want me to cover, fire away. Even if you didn't get to put it in here about you can always just comment on these videos, and then I'll either respond during the week, or if it's a good topic or something, I might just save it for the next week's chat. So, thanks for coming out, guys. I think I probably will sign off. Appreciate everybody being here. It's a lot of fun doing these things. So, I guess I'll sign off and say bye for now, or it's actually ciao for now is kind of my saying at the end. So thanks for coming out, guys. I'll see you next week, or I'll see you on the Instagram or Facebook. Later.